Start the recording. Switch this over to this screen. And all right, so welcome back, guys. Thank you for joining me on our 26th session of Ophion. I don't really have but one pseudo announcement, and as you can probably see on the Discord overlay, we're running with a much reduced crew this time. That is by design. It's not as if I have kicked players out, so no worries there. But as such, we might be running a shorter session today, maybe hour 30 minutes, 2 hours, maybe even shorter. Who knows? We'll play and see what happens. But oh no, there was one other thing, and you'll have to excuse me for shilling a little bit here. We are currently at 49 followers on Twitch, so I am literally one away from enabling subscriber mode. So I hate saying this, but follows really help me out here. So if you haven't already on Twitch, go ahead and give me a nice follow, and I appreciate it. Anyway, with that out of the way, Captain, I believe you have the log for this week.
Captain's personal log, stardate 55701.9. We've entered our 5th week inside Tholian space of our projected 6-month journey. While I have extended invitations to our Tholian handlers, they seem disinterested in any official or unofficial communications beyond the twice-daily status reports that they have requested. I don't know why they need them. Ambassador Gozin is no doubt giving them all the information they need. Crew morale is holding. Despite the early temporal excitement, there has been nothing to do. Holodecks are running 26 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the converted cargo bay resort is getting a lot of use. Cultural Night has increased to become a twice-weekly activity, and we are starting to run low on spy and action movies. There's been suggestions to air romantic comedies next. I am frustrated with Ambassador Gozin's unwillingness to participate in these. She is either on the bridge or in her converted bridge, and rarely anywhere else. Zareed has been spending a great deal of time with her, though. I'm hoping that her efforts will at least lead to some improvement in relations. Personally, I find myself turning inwards and working more on my art. Despite my enjoyment of interacting with the crew in a more relaxed setting, I find myself being a captain on a ship that is flying on autopilot. It's just the ennui of peace and quiet that I find very unnerving, a feeling that I did not expect when Skull set me on this path decades ago. End log.
Alrighty. So, as you can probably guess, this is our lovely time to do the RP as you guys wish. I know, Beckett, you did want to do the surgery, but did anyone have any other scenes they wanted to get out of the way before I have Beckett work on Sfarja?
No?
Nope.
Okay. Oh, sorry. One final announcement, and you're going to notice this as I switch screens. I had a lovely artist do token art for all of my players. So, yeah, you're going to be looking at new tokens for everybody. Personally, I think they did a good job, and, we're going to use them for the time being. Anyway, so let's cut to sickbay, where it is literally just Commander Beckett and Sfarja, as per Sfarja's request. And the surgery is prepped, and all Beckett has to do to kick things off is put her under.
All right. Sorry. Okay. So now that we're here, I've cleared everybody out, as I said I would. I've already talked to the captain, as well as uh, anybody else that needs to be in the know that I will be indisposed. I've already converted the emergency medical hologram to dump his memory banks after we get done with this, as far as for the last, well, however long the surgery is going to take. So the only person that's going to know anything about your medical history will be me.
I appreciate your discretion in this matter, Doctor.
Well, that's, if there's anything a doctor is supposed to have, it's discretion, especially when it comes to his patients. So if you don't mind, lay back and we will get all of the shrapnel out and take care of what's hurting your heart.
All right. So she does so on the main bio bed, and I'm assuming you go over with a hypo spray and go and knock her out.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, we're going to do an extended task, hopefully one that will generate momentum for you. So Beckett, for the time being, your current roles are going to be control and medicine. The ship will also assist, and this is how I figured we'd do the EMH. The EMH's role will be represented by the ship rolling sensors plus medicine.
Okay.
And the base difficulty of this is a 3, the magnitude is a 3, and the work track is a 12.
Okay. And I'm looking for it now, but I can't remember. Does being chief medical officer give me any extra rolls for, or any extra dice for performing surgery or any medical task while on the ship?
Let's find out. Yeah, because I know it's come up for Locke being the science officer and the captain being him. Let me see. Let's see. When aboard the ship, the chief medical officer always has the advantage medical department, which represents the ship's medical personnel. So if I read that properly, you have a similar advantage to the chief engineer, and sort of, the chief engineer, as long as he's on the ship, he has -1 to all engineering type thing. So I think it's the same thing for you, just with medicine.
Okay, yeah, kind of to show that there's always people around to help the chief engineer, chief medical officer type deal.
Exactly.
I think is okay. So so then the difficulty would still be 3, or would it go down to 2?
It would go down to 2.
Okay. Then let's get some rolls going.
Also, out of curiosity, who's going to be rolling for the ship?
I got the ship.
Alrighty.
And I'm quite certain that I have a focus with trauma surgery.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Alright, so you start off with a momentum. Go ahead and roll me your challenge die now to see how much work you get done. Reminder, that is
And
2 plus your medicine score.
sweet. There it is. I was like, didn't we used to have a little tab that said challenge dice?
Yeah, that hopefully
And you
hasn't gone
said
anywhere.
no. I see it. It's underneath your tab. And you said 2 plus medicine score.
Correct. Okay, well, that is our magic number. So not only do you make some good progress, which I'll describe in a moment, but you do achieve a breakthrough, which means that the difficulty goes down even further to a 1 for future rolls. But narratively, what happens is you having some knowledge of Svarja's anatomy, you sort of begin to open up a hole, a very, neat sort of aperture into her chest. And I imagine you sort of have, like, above the sick bay, there's sort of a dome that can more or less manifest these, like, holographic arms or lights or tools, whatever you need. And for this in particular, what I had imagined, and of course you can flavor it differently, but they're sort of like a miniature little tractor beam type thing. And you begin basically pulling out these shards very carefully from the surrounding flesh. But yeah, that's almost halfway done with the task already.
Sweet. All right, let's give this another go.
Okay,
There's 2 for me, and
all right. So 2 momentum, even better.
challenge dice.
All right. So this has achieved the effect I wanted. So this is where we'll end the extended task. So Beckett, you actually finish far beyond or far behind the schedule, or what is it, beyond? You know what I mean. You finish quickly. In fact,
Whoa, phrasing.
Isn't that my thing?
I think it's usually mine. Anyway, instead of the anticipated 3+ hour surgery, either you're just that good, or the initial scans you took weren't as serious as it looked when you looked inside, but you finished the surgery, maybe within an hour 30 minutes. And you seal Svarja back up, and you sort of have a bowl full of metallic shards sitting next to the biobed. And yeah, it is at your discretion when to wake her up and what to do with the shards.
I think she comes from a warrior culture. I will not dispose of the shards. I will actually keep them. I'll put them in a little like sealed specimen jar or something to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't immediately wake her up. I will let her sleep it off.
Okay.
And I will stay in sickbay alone, or at least in the surgery portion of sickbay alone, until she wakes up.
Okay. I would say, based on the medicine of the future, what I know of it, she'll stay out for probably about an hour more if you let her.
That's fine.
Okay. Um, so we'll fast forward a little bit here. And yeah, Svarja begins to kind of stir and she begins to look around and she eventually alights on your face and she smiles and says, is it done, doctor?
I'll hold up the little specimen jar and kind of rattle it around a little bit. Um, yeah, everything, all the shrapnel, foreign bodies, whatever you would like to call them, have been taken out. The heart palpitations and everything that came from the blast, that's all been corrected as well. And I actually did it in about half the time that I originally thought I would. So I've been letting you sleep and rest. And again, I stayed in here by myself, so no one else knew what was going on until you woke up.
So she
Um,
she does make to sit up unless you stop her.
I will stop her
Okay.
and I will tell her that, like, whoa, 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 not so hasty. And plus, I'm going to use my superpower and I'm going to give you some time off so that way you can rest. And you don't have to worry about any duty shifts or anything like that. Stay in here, stay prone for a little bit, and then I will help you to your room.
Thank you, doctor, but not that this is an insult to you or your sick babe, but there's not a whole lot to do here.
Well, that's true. I mean, I could bring in whatever uh, entertainment you would like, as far as pads with books or movies. But if you would like to get back to your room, I'd say let's give it another at least half an hour in here of just laying down, and then I'll help you back to your quarters.
Excellent. Let's do the latter. And she'll sit back down and stare at the ceiling. And I don't know. Would you literally let the next 30 minutes pass in silence, or would you try to strike up conversation with her?
Um, no, actually, I honestly would do it in silence.
Okay.
I'll go to one of the um, wall sconces or wall pads and kind of punch up to where she's laying, where she would be looking on the ceiling. Like I'll dim the lights
Hmm.
and have basically uh, from the exterior sensors, like what the space. I want to like a moon roof is effectively what I'm trying to do,
Okay.
but to where when she's staring up, it's all the stars and everything moving as we're traveling.
Okay. Yeah, that is certainly easy enough to do. And yeah.
And then after the half an hour, uh, if I am able to help her up and she's moving without any or without too much trouble, I'll help walk her back to her quarters. If she can't, then I'll site to site her back into her quarters.
So when she does finally sit up and hops off the biobed, begins walking around, She certainly doesn't move with the, sort of slow caution of someone who's literally just had open heart surgery. She seems to be moving pretty much like normal. And, as she kind of takes a few quick laps around sickbay, she says, I feel fine, Doctor. Honestly, I think I could probably make it back to my quarters no problem.
Okay, but make me one promise. I kept up your end of the bargain. If anything starts to hurt, if shortness of breath, chest pains, whatever starts, immediately call me. Don't wait. Don't try to be the big soldier and just put it away. Call me.
She smiles and does bow her head a little bit and says, I will do so, Doctor. Thank you.
And as she leaves sickbay, I'll just send a small little text-only message to either the captain's ready room or his chair or both, just letting him know that the surgery ended and everything went well, and she is resting in her quarters.
Okay.
And the captain would reply with a smiley face.
Even in the 24th century, emoticons are a thing. Oh dear.
They always come back around. It's a cycle, ancient Egypt and hieroglyphics, and now we're doing it. So I mean, it's bound to come back around.
Kinect has disabled them on his console.
Oh, that is a very Panek thing to do. All right, so Panek, Skull, did you guys have any particular scenes you wanted to get out of the way? It can literally be almost anything at this point.
I can head out, step out from my ready room onto the bridge.
Okay. Yeah. Not quite.
I'll stand up from the captain's seat and give it to him.
I'm a hourly report, Mr. Panek.
We are maintaining our current warp speed. We have received we're maintaining intermediate contact with what was the name of the ship escorting us?
The Adelicite.
We are maintaining intermediate contact with the Adelicite, and our course is steady. All ship systems report ready status.
Glad to hear it. Any update on our supplies? Will our rationing allow us to reach the end of our journey without any major pit stops required?
Foregoing any situation that seems to pop up around the ship, Captain.
Duly noted. Keep it up, folks. We'll get home as fast as we can. Well, as fast as they let us. I'll just go down and accept the duty roster from Panek and go over it in silence.
Okay.
Ever get the feeling of deja vu?
I believe this is a human affectation, Captain.
Yes.
My memory is not as faulty.
Yes. It's an interesting phenomenon, especially among joined trills. The feeling that you've done something not only before, but in a previous life. But you can't quite remember which life it was. Not even the symbiotes have memory as good as you, Panek.
I could see where the conflict would come in with having so many memories.
Just wish I could actually talk to the guy from every now and then. Oh well.
So actually, Sona will kind of turn in her seat and kind of speak up and says, Captain, if I may, is there not a specific Trill ceremony in which you may communicate with your past hosts?
There is indeed, and ever since the Dax symbiote started to divulge certain secrets of the Trill ceremonies to the Federation at whole, it's been a question commonly asked, but it's often seen as something that must be done only when absolutely necessary to preserve either one's self or the self of one, or the well-being of those that the host cares about. It's a very draining and emotionally intimate experience. And Trill's society focuses more on the current life of the host rather than trying to dredge up memories of the past.
I believe such a ceremony also calls for the presence of a symbiote guardian.
That is also recommended, although I'm pretty sure that it could be done if with anyone nearby tapping a rhythmic beat on a tambourine. Don't tell the Symbiote Commission that, though.
And Sona says, tell the Symbiote Commission what, sir?
Connect just raises an eyebrow.
We've only had you on board for... You've only been functional for about a year now. Am I correct, Sona?
On this ship, sir, yes, but prior to that, I was functional for approximately 3 years.
Ah. Well, it pleases me that we're already teaching you deceit and secret keeping.
I learned it from the best, and she looks deliberately at Panek.
I'm just going to crane over my shoulder and raise an eyebrow and then just go back to poking a pad and muttering something. Well, if this is how the mutiny starts...
And Locke does kind of look over, and hopefully Locke won't mind me taking a little bit of liberty, and he says, But I used to do that for you know what? I'm not going to get involved. You know what? I'm just going to... He just turns back around and goes back to, scanning... Well, not scanning, literally staring at a read-only console. All right. So, any other scenes? Pretty much anyone want to get out of the way, even if it's with one of your favorite supporting characters, because otherwise I will kind of move us to the quote-unquote meat of the session.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good with getting stuck in for my last hour.
Okay. All right. So Skull, you're on the bridge. You're just sort of reading reports and trying to kill time at this point. And the computer chimes, and it says, "Captain Skull, please report to your ready room."
Computer, please confirm last statement.
The computer sort of works and does that, kind of whirring sound, and it says, "Please restate command."
Sorry, could you repeat that? You glitched out halfway through.
Oh, the computer says, "Please restate command."
Great, now even the ship wants me to do stuff. Okay, let's see where this goes. Miss Shatsu, please wait by my ready room door. Mr. Panek, you have the con.
Captain.
If anyone hears blood-curdling screams, please come in and rescue me. I'll open the door and just stick my head inside.
Okay. So, in your ready room, in your chair, is your favorite character ever. It's Lady Q. And today, she seems to be a lieutenant in Science is Blue.
I'm just going to audibly sigh. Madam Q, welcome on board the Ophion again. To what do I owe this distinct pleasure?
Well, don't stand out there in the cold. Come, sit down. Let's have a chat.
I'm just going to make a quick hand gesture back to Shatsu that says imminent death is not likely in the near future, and she can resume her post.
Okay.
I'll go and I'll have a sit over here, and it's like, I've never actually looked at my ready room from this perspective.
Well, ironically enough, I do have a discussion about perspective. But first, let's remark on current events. I'm I'm starting to wonder if you're ever going to come to my neck of the woods if you keep getting yourselves thrown across the quadrant every other week.
Well, you would know more about the skeins of fate than I do, I'm afraid. I just go where the ship and the current laws of astrophysics, as I understand them, take me.
Hmm. That's an interesting answer, but, for your sake, I won't delve into why things keep happening around you.
I'm I personally believe that it is the machinations of of a person who appears to be impartial, but really just wants to screw with us for the sake of other people that may or may not be watching or listening. But what do I know?
Kinect has an uneasy tingling in the top of his ears.
But Q actually does have a hearty laugh at, and she says, "Oh, you can just say that we're the Q. We have a single name."
Mhm. Right. So, Miss Q, what would you like to discuss?
Well, I had a bit of a brain teaser for you. Are you at all familiar with Earth history?
Admittedly, only what they taught at the academy and as research required.
Hmm. Then would you be aware of the mythos surrounding dragons?
It's not an uncommon phenomenon in mythologies around the Alpha Quadrant. Giant winged lizards that breathe primordial elements. On Earth, it was typically fire. Trills, due to its lack of large oceans, the dragons breathed fire, or breathed water, I should say. But yes, I know of them. Never encountered one, and why do I get the feeling that's going to change?
Well, perhaps if, well, let me put it this way. Don't you find it odd that all of these cultures, both on Earth and across the quadrant, all have similar mythos surrounding a similar being, yet no one's ever actually seen one?
Well, we kind of did.
Oh, if you mean
Granted, it was a
him, and there's right before you, or right before her in like the palm of her hands, she makes a little image of the Nebula dragon, and then kind of waves it away. He doesn't count.
I would think. I think he said something similar to you, but that's beside the point. No, I don't believe anyone's actually encountered a dragon, probably because they don't exist. At least not as far as we've been able to determine.
Hmm. Oh, in order to get you in the right mindset, are you familiar with the Voth at all?
Voth. Um, seem to have read a small dissertation by the Chakotay, I believe his name was. Some sort of saurian reptilian people that were encountered in the Delta Quadrant?
That's more or less correct. The Voth were I believe the human term is a dinosaur descendant that once left Earth many millions of years ago. Uh, but before I get perhaps a little bit ahead of myself, I'm not suggesting that dragons were sort of a proto life form on so many planets. But what if I were to tell you that they may have been a nomadic species?
So you are so potentially a nomadic alien species?
She nods.
I mean, I've heard of stranger things that have turned out to be true, and despite your penchant for tall tales, they've rarely turned out to be false.
She does smile at that, and she replies, "Well, I think you'll find that most of what I say is true. It's just a matter of perspective."
And there's that perspective word again.
Yes, perhaps I should cut to the chase. And she does lean forward a little bit and says, "What if I were to offer you the opportunity for you and shall we say, up to 6 members of your crew. What if I were to give you the opportunity to study this species firsthand?
I would raise an eyebrow and go, my first inclination would be to jump at the chance. Boredom has set in, and any sort of excitement would be, well, something of interest. However, the obvious question is, why? Why are you interested in offering us such things?
Well, I cite the test, and she does air quotes, of Q, and by that she means Delancey Q, that Q performed on humanity many a times. I figured I'd run one of my own.
Oh boy. Well, I suppose I could just say no, but I have a feeling that we're going to do it anyway, so I may as well enter it on my terms.
You're learning. I like it. Well, let me lay down the ground rules of this test then. I will give you and your little away team approximately 1 to 2 hours to study this species as best you can. However, there are some stipulations. And she holds up 3 fingers. The first thing is that if any member of this species discovers the away team's presence or figures out that you're there, you will all be transported back to the Ophion immediately. Second, if any attempt is made to steal or impart technology, same deal. Third, any member that falls unconscious or is otherwise severely injured will be transported back to the Ophion before any permanent harm is done.
Well, that sounds more fair than the rules that Q gave Picard.
I like to think I'm a little less magnanimous than that Q.
I'm sorry. What were the last two conditions?
So the second one was if you make an attempt to steal or impart technology, basically give or take. And if any member of the away team falls unconscious or is otherwise severely injured, then they come back as well before, permanent harm sets in.
Okay.
Very well. I accept your terms.
Lovely. I thought you might. Why don't you assemble your away team and bring them here? I'll be waiting.
Very well. And I'll just stand up and head out of my ready room.
Okay? So I'll put us temporarily back on the bridge.
Commander, we've been visited by Madam Q again. Let's assemble in the conference room, please. She has an interesting game for us to play.
Game, Captain.
I believe I prefer to think of it as a game, and well, she prefers to think of it as a game. I prefer to think of it as a once in a lifetime opportunity to observe a particularly rare Xenos culture.
Captain, we are currently being escorted out fully in space by a dreadnought.
Do you really think that she'll take no for an answer?
I guess not. However, you're rolling over on your belly to show your belly for her is not the image I think we should be projecting.
And if what you prefer I soliloquy her to death?
I will advise you on this as best I can, Captain, but these are your choices as commanding officer to make. If we shall have to play her game, then we will play it. We can't do much against her.
No, we can't. And if we can do this with minimal impact to the Ophion's overall course and speed, then I believe all the best. I'm willing to bet the Tholians don't even know she's here.
I shall call the senior staff to the conference room, Captain.
Thank you.
And we cut to the conference room. And I have to play a little bit of tokens here. For sake of argument, we'll say Murthrin is currently involved with some form of maintenance, so Murthrin cannot join you at the moment. Matic will be here just in case, because he is supposed to be around this time showing up, so we'll say he is here. Just a little bit mute. Shatsu, of course, comes along as Chief of Security. Beckett, you'd come along unless you don't want to.
Well, if it's a senior command staff meeting, then well, I kind of don't have a choice.
Well, you always have a choice, you know. But
You could say no. We'll see where that gets you.
And we'll say, also for sake of argument, we'll say that Lieutenant Locke does stay on the bridge, simply because, you know, he would be the ranking officer with all of you in the conference room.
I figured that both Murthrin and Locke are busy figuring out this whole quantum slipstream diagram that they absconded with from last session.
That's actually probably a good thing to put them on. So let's say they're doing that. Also, Gozin is not there. Let me get rid of her token. There we go. All right. So, you all kind of...
We definitely would not want her around for this.
Oh, no. But yeah, you all kind of assemble in the conference room. And yeah, it's your meeting. I'll let you run it.
All right. Well, I'm sure that we have a lot of work to be doing right now, as Skull leans back and says in a slightly cynical matter. However, Madam Q has just decided to drop in and has given us an interesting way to relieve some of the tedium that many of us are probably feeling at this point of time. And I will go and I'll quickly give a rundown of dragons and them being apparently a nomadic race, and us being given the opportunity to go and observe them in their natural environment.
It is my understanding, Captain, that normal shipboard activity should not be tedious to a Starfleet officer. They would be doing this regardless of our current situation.
Spoken like a true first officer, and I fully agree with you. However, it does... Those of us who are not so logic-bound to routine, it does chafe every once in a while.
How unfortunate.
Yes, it is. She has on the subject of Madam Q. She's given us 6. She's given she's offered the opportunity to 6 of us to go and investigate these dragons, while promising minimal harm to us and just transporting us back home.
The promise of a queue, I think, would be very ephemeral.
I would normally agree with you, Mr. Panek. However, Madam Q, while she does view us as playthings, well, she at least treats her playthings well. And, to be fair, she has led us into she's given us unique insight into the history of the Andromeda Galaxy.
So Shatsu does kind of speak up and say, Sir, would you care to take security with you on this mission?
I believe it is definitely prudent. She did mention that if these dragons became aware of our presence, that we would be blipped back to the Ophion. However, she did neglect to mention any other species that we might encounter.
Understood, sir. Another thought that has just occurred to me. Should we perhaps call up Senior Chief Hylong? She is from a draconic type race.
I'll just look at Panek and Matic, and that does sound like a very useful person to have on board on this team.
All right.
Scalda Hylong, please report to the conference room.
On my way, sir.
Will you be requiring my presence, Captain? or will you need me to stay and
I,
command the
bel
ship?
I believe it best if at least one of either myself or you may stay back to keep up appearances with our Tholian guest and escort. So I
They
believe
are a
it.
priority.
They are indeed our current priority, and admittedly, this is a flight of fancy. And honestly, I really do want to see a dragon.
Well, very well. I will stay behind, Captain. I look forward to your scientific logs.
Mr. Beckett, this is going to be an entirely voluntary mission. If you wish to stay behind and monitor crew health and well-being, you're more than welcome to.
I think I would be remiss to every professor I ever had of xenobiology to miss a chance to see an actual dragon in, person. Though, if they're anything like this information that I've read about a species the Voyager crew found, it'll be pretty interesting.
Indeed, it's a unique it's a unique scientific endeavor. Miss Shatsu, would you like to come along? Are you coming along personally, or would you choose to designate a crewman?
That is up to you, sir. I have no problem coming along, but if Gureen were to come onto the bridge, I simply worry that not having myself a tactical would sort of tip her off.
And to be honest, Captain, leaving a ship without its chief of security is kind of risky. And if we are bringing Hailong with us, I believe that between herself and myself, you will be well taken care of.
And it's
Very well.
literally about then that Hailong walks in and says, "Who are we taking care of?"
You and I are finding a nice place on the ship for the captain to stay, and Panek is going to take over. And I just kind of nod with a smirk on my face.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Hailong looks very confused between the three of you.
Oh, right. I got that confused. You and I are finding a nice place for Panek to stay, and the captain's going to stay in charge. And then I just kind of sip a cup of coffee.
I believe Panek's place will be on the bridge, Commander, while the rest of us are going on a jaunt through time and space.
Oh, wonderful. We've already picked a place for him.
I believe the commander is feeling quite ill, Captain. He's not making any sense.
I just sheepishly shrug. He's not wrong.
Back on the subject at hand, gentlemen. Very well. Miss Hailong, you can... now, I forget Miss Hailong's specialties. What is her... She is scientist. She's a science person by nature, isn't she?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So between Hailong's scientific and security expertise, Commander Beckett's xenobiology, medical, and willingness to use a phaser, Maddox's improvisation and overall intelligence level, and myself, we are very well equipped to go. She did open up for two others. So, Panek, are you interested in just playing Hailong for now, or do you have another character you wish to bring along?
Hailong's fine.
Okay.
All right, so just to make sure I've got everyone, Skull, Beckett, Hailong, Maddox will sort of stay in the shadows, but will kind of leave it as a question mark whether or not he comes along, because it is kind of dependent on him being here. So that would be 4. Who else would be coming?
I would bring along Zareed for her cultural observing capabilities.
Okay.
And I am open to a 6th.
I would say anybody but Xanaphia.
You mean Xenixia?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I meant.
Oh,
It's totally what I said.
Yeah, totally.
Internet garble. Yeah, totally what I said.
Gotcha.
I feel
All right.
she would be too much, as Commander Murthrin likes to say, she would want to pet the puppies.
I want to pet the dragon. I want to pet the dragon. Okay, then in the off chance we will need a pilot, I recommend bringing along Miss Lotus.
Okay.
I think that's a smart choice, Captain. Yeah, just in
Indeed.
case.
Before there's a shift change scene, I'd like to grab a moment with the captain in the conference room as we're walking out.
Sure,
course.
you can certainly do so.
Yes. Yes, Commander.
I noticed Lieutenant Locke and Lieutenant Commander Murthrin were missing from the meeting. I believe this is because they're continuing their work on the QSD.
That's correct. I'm having them put as much of their effort into trying to get this quantum slipstream drive operational without tipping our hand to our Tholian friends.
Which is the concern I wish to voice with you, Captain.
Yes.
Should they prove successful in developing this quantum slipstream drive, the use of which could prove detrimental to relations with the Tholian if we were to just disappear suddenly
Agreed.
to their perspective. However, we cannot disclose such technology to them. So we find
Yeah.
ourselves in quite a conundrum.
Well, it's on one hand, it would be delightful if we could just send a if we could just transport Ambassador Green back to her ship, flick a switch, and be gone while leaving a lovely thank you present of flowers and chocolates for our Tholian friends. I suspect that is not going to happen, and as much as I would very much like to have this operational before, or at least ready to be tested before tipping our hands to the Tholians. After all, from their point of view, this is technology that we have acquired from them from the future, even though we're making heavy use of logs that we found through Voyager's modifications.
Even testing such a device shall prove quite interesting and difficult with them monitoring us constantly. But I will try to come up with a method of hiding such things from them, Captain.
That would be appreciated, my friend.
Also of note, I believe chocolates are not edible by Tholians, Captain.
Oh. I thought... Oh, sorry, I was thinking dogs. Right, chocolates aren't edible by most creatures with 4 legs, come to think of it. Maybe some nice gemstones? I wonder... Do we even know what Tholians eat? How long has Ambassador Green been on this vessel? Have we even seen her eat?
So the canon answer, from what I was able to find, is they literally take in nutrients from the atmosphere.
Hmm. So rocks that photosynthesize. That's Star Trek for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe we can leave some very tasty oxygen for them or something. We'll figure something out.
Indeed, Captain. And then I'll hold my hand out for him to leave first.
I'll nod in thanks and step on out.
All right. So, again, just to be extra sure, that is the away team you're taking, yes?
I believe that. Let's see. Skull, Beckett, Hylong, Matic, Reed, and Lotus. That sounds accurate.
Okay. So, my next question for you is, what sort of equipment are you going to be taking with you?
Some sort of advanced scanning rig would be nice. Maybe even a phaser rifle just in case. Survival gear.
Phaser rifle means we escalate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Phaser rifle does mean escalation. How many of those... I'm guessing we don't have the observation suits that cloak on this ship?
No, you do not. Mostly because I don't think they're statted, and I didn't think you'd go that angle.
That's all right. We'll just say that we don't have any.
Yeah.
Move on with that. Okay. I found it very interesting that Starfleet doesn't allow the use of cloaked vessels, but cloaked facilities and cloaked personnel are perfectly okay. But that's something for another day. Some sort of makeshift survival tent, or like this is the 23rd century. We have to have like the most awesome survival tents out there, right?
Conceivably, yeah.
Yeah, I think at least one survival tent with a few days worth of rations would be a good idea. No,
Also, I think the observation post from I think it's Generations. It's not cloaked. It's just a hologram.
that's right, hollow blind.
All right.
Yeah. Equipment for a 4-day camping trip, I guess.
Okay. So I'm assuming that does include tricorders for everyone.
Naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Beckett will take along a medical kit, including a medical tricorder, and that's free.
Is there any kind of beefed up science tricorder Pylon could take?
That's what I'm looking at now. No, it just sort of seems to roll in all tricorders. Here we go. The science tricorder had a multi-discipline database and a built-in subspace link that could connect to nearby Starfleet vessels for main computer access when needed. By 24th century, tricorders were unified into a single design as data storage and sensors design was further minimized, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it seems that thanks to the lovely advance of technology, like the only difference between a medical tricorder and a regular tricorder is that the medical one has some more, medicine focused scanning and database on it, but otherwise a normal tricorder will cover pretty much everything you might need.
Okay, dope.
So the camping equipment I'm not going to have you pay for. Let's see if there's anything in the rule book that I think you might want. Would you take a holographic imager?
What's the range on, or what's this range on such a thing? Is it can it be used as a portable duck blind?
Well, the holographic imager is basically the 24th century equivalent of a photographic camera.
Ah. Then yes.
Okay, that would be a momentum cost.
All right. Then I'll spend it.
Okay. Let's see. What else would you want? Yeah, they're actually pretty light on equipment in here. Unless you guys want, an anti-grav sled or some medical equipment that isn't in the area in the medical kit. Things of that nature.
Yeah. Medical stuff I'll leave up to Beckett.
Well, I was going to ask about that if we wanted to bring a medical kit because I thought it was a threat generator if we brought it.
Actually, it's very similar to the engineering kit in that engineers can take it no problem, and you as CMO can take a medical one no problem.
Oh, sweet. So between me and Matic, we can take. Well, I don't think we really need the engineering one.
Probably not.
Okay.
Okay.
And yeah, if I can definitely take it, the medical kit without causing threat, then yeah, I'm going to take one.
Noted. All right. So, you all assemble the away team and with all of your equipment. And sure enough, when you walk with the away team back into your ready room, you see that Madame Q pretty much hasn't left. She's still just sort of sitting there. And as you all walk in, she says, "My, aren't we prepared today?" And she does sort of stand and say, "Is this everyone then?"
Yes, we are ready.
Yeah, very well. Have fun. And she snaps her fingers, and there's a blinding light And I will put you on this map. So to kind of describe what you're seeing, mostly for the benefit of anyone who's listening and may not see the screen. So as your vision returns, you see that you are in the middle of a very sleek and clean city. The architecture is full of these grand sweeping curves, gentle lines, and all manner of holographic displays that are very pleasing to the eye. Um, this seems to be a city that is more in tune with nature, and by that I mean they seem to have built around it rather than, say, the Zavoisie method of literally just building a megacity as big and as complicated as possible. In fact, you see, and here in the distance, you see these grand waterfalls that seem to sort of segment the city into certain parts. Um, it's probably about this time that you notice the creatures around you. And it's confusing at first, but then you kind of look down at yourselves and it hits you. Lady Q has done something, and by that I mean every single member of the away team has been transformed into a dragon.
Can I
Interesting.
ask one question? Because I'd walked away when we started with what gear we were bringing.
Uh huh.
Are we assuming that we're bringing EVA suits?
I don't think EV suits were discussed.
I
Kind of a mute point now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's why I asked if it was being assumed that we had brought them anyways.
No, no.
no. I decided not to mention it because I had whatever Lady Q's game was. She would have at least made sure that we would survive the initial act of it, at least.
True. Like, there's no way to actually test us if we can't survive.
Mm-hmm.
Precisely. Can human
Is there? Go
yeah.
ahead.
It's pretty much a scientifically proven fact that humanoids require a level of oxygen nitrogen to live, and temperature middling between 0 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So any Q that isn't that smart doesn't deserve to be a tester.
Is there equipment compatible with these forms?
So that was the next thing I was going to mention. So as you maybe deal with the shock of not being yourselves, you do realize that your equipment has been conveniently all put into what would be a dragon-sized backpack.
I'm just going to look around and go, well, this is kind of awkward.
I don't know. This is kind of good feeling for me.
Beckett doesn't even say a word. He just whips out his tricorder and starts scanning all three of us immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, I'm gonna quote a really old quote from Earth, and just gonna say, "This is freaking cool." And he's just scanning away at everything about the away team.
Okay.
Are we able to understand the languages being displayed around us?
Yes, in fact, when you look at any holographic displays or if you catch wind of any conversation, so I need to back up a small bit. So you are, right now, you guys are kind of in the middle of a very quiet and a very spacious back alley. So no one seems to have noticed you yet, but you do, kind of looking out towards the main streets, see other dragons going about their business. And basically the dragons you're seeing, they run the gambit. They're all different colors, they're all different designs. They don't really seem to share a common feature other than, two wings, two legs, two arms, whatever you want to imagine the front arms being, whether they're like actual feet or if they're like ambidextrous sort of limbs that they can use. The tail, some horns, things of that nature. But yeah, returning to the point, the conversations you are picking up from outside the alleyway They do appear to be in Earth English, to you anyway.
Ah, the, I'm just going to look quickly at, make sure that all 6 of us are here and in dragon form.
Mm-hmm.
This is not quite what I expected, but I can make this work. Um, do I instinctively know who the other dragons are, or is that something where we basically have to do introductions?
I think you have to do introductions here.
Okay. So I'm okay. I'm going to use one of my winged claw. Go, Skull.
I'll look at him for a second and then pick up on it. Go, Chief Long.
With tricorder out, Beckett goes, yeah, I'm Beckett. And he just keeps scanning everything around him.
I'm going to scan the material composition of the buildings, and then I'm going to say, while we seem to be conveniently placed for the moment, I think we should be careful of our observations and surveying out in the open. Nothing will draw attention more than a couple of wide-eyed dragons who look like they're out of place.
Speaking of wide-eyed dragons, I imagine Zerid to be an elongated Chinese style.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just running around going, "This is awesome! Holy cool! This is amazing. Okay, cool, calm. I understand. This is awesome. Can I breathe fire?"
So she goes to breathe fire, and nothing happens.
I can't breathe fire, but I'm still a freaking cool dragon. So,
Wait, we can't breathe fire? This is some bullshit.
I'm just going. Skull's going to try to breathe something and see if there's anything that come away from everyone else, of course.
Ooh, wait. Captain. I have an idea, and I need your help.
Okay.
I take out of the backpack that the medical supplies are in. I take out that holographic imager, and I hand it to him, point it at me.
Okay.
Okay.
And
I'm gonna make like a fake roar, like a like I'm growling or roaring at him, looking all mean and everything.
mm-hmm.
Take the picture, and I do it again.
Naturally, I'll take several.
How long
Wonderful.
is facepalm?
Yes, Hylon will definitely facepalm at that.
I'm totally gonna have that be a holographic image over Pinek's bed when he goes to bed tonight.
Commander, I think you are lax adhesion to the guidelines of medical access to officers' quarters needs to be discussed, but at a later time. I'm going to look at the rest of the dragons. If everyone is more or less adjusted to their forms, let's go out and mingle. And I would suggest not referring to us in. Let's not refer to us as ranked.
I will sullenly just kind of put the holographic imager back in my backpack and mutter something about, yeah, well, he got into my quarters with a Klingon EMH, so we're gonna be even.
I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that because that raises serious questions about my choice to raise him to first officer, to commander. Anyways.
All right. So, you guys leave the quote-unquote safety of the back alley, and now that you're looking around, you see that the main road, or pretty much all the roads really, well, going even further, pretty much the whole place has been designed with a draconic size in mind. That means that the thoroughfares are very wide. The buildings are not squished together like you would find in New York. They're very sparse so that there's room to kind of fly around them. And again, you, for the moment, don't really stick out. You are seeing other dragons with, backpacks or science equipment or, really, standard day-to-day type, accoutrements, I guess would be the word. And yeah, unless you literally run up to someone and go, "Hey, hey, I'm a dragon! Isn't that cool?" No one really seems to be paying you any mind at the moment.
Okay. Well, I'm going to crane my long, scaly neck around and just quietly say, "Well, we are, well, scales or not, we're still Starfleet officers. We're here to explore. Um, let's explore and be back here in, I would say, 10 hours? Maybe even 5. Let's make it
What's
5
the
hours."
current time of day?
So you look up and you would see that the sun is probably about not quite overhead, but a little bit closer to the horizon, maybe. Um, and any quote unquote clocks that you look at, the number system, or it says something along the lines of like 10:20, but you have no idea what their time might be. So that 10:20 could be many things.
I'm going to make it a point to fixing my mic here, to take a reading of the sun in its position every 5 standard minutes,
Okay.
just to track its progress, and then extrapolate from a couple of those its orbit or the period it would take to circumnavigate.
Okay.
Sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
quick question. Out of curiosity, because this might affect role playing, do I still sense the Skull symbiote's presence?
You do, strangely enough.
Good. Works for me.
All right.
I mean, the skull symbiote is freaking the hell out, but he's still there.
Yes, the Skull symbiote has turned into that thing that makes fire. It has never been happier.
That's a great mental image. Just a symbiote just breathing fire. It's great.
Uh,
Oh dear. All right, so you guys, if I understand correctly, are now going to split the party for a period of about 5 hours. Yeah.
that's pretty much what I'm thinking about doing. It would be easier to gather data in this instance as single entities rather than a group of large dragons that are currently just huddling around each other.
Okay. All right. Then we will sort of go down the line then. So
Could you
Skull,
start with me?
Oops. Oh yeah, we got to start with you. So where would Hylong go first? Do you think?
Um, I think she'd be interested in observing what their technology is like, and what stage it's at, as well as any kind of what composition their materials are built out of, things like that.
Okay.
I figure Beckett's going to be focusing more on the biological.
How do I want to say this? So if Hylong, let me ask this question: would this be purely visual, or would Hylong try to kind of sneak away and use her tricorder from time to time?
She would try to sneak away and use her tricorder, as well as maybe attempt to get her hands on a piece of technology, just something small that she could secret away and take into an alley to scan.
Okay. Let us have Hylong do a reason and science, difficulty 2. Hey, that's what you need. So what you find is that the prevalent building material seems to be a mixture of rockcrete and plasteel, meaning that it is basically a very strong, dense material, but also that it quote unquote sort of breathes. Um, so it makes the buildings not have a huge thermal signature, if that makes any sense. Um, but it's probably also the strength of the material is also probably how some of these buildings are really tall, And more specifically, so this big building in the middle that you're seeing is what seems to be the base of a massive orbital elevator. And you do see every once in a while a quote unquote car going up and down the elevator. Trying to think what else that role would give you. As far as the level of technology goes, basically what you're seeing so far is that this civilization seems to have at least perfected replicator technology. In that what you're seeing, so normally replicators kind of leave a certain signature or some form of quote unquote discrepancy, or at least that's how I always imagined them. Um, the matter here does not seem to be replicated. Like, this is either the real thing or they have replicated the real thing, if that makes any sense.
Kind of. I think a replicator would be like an almost like the molecular structure is almost too perfect
Mm-hmm.
because you're putting it together, and whereas a natural formating phenomenon, there'd be inconsistencies or nuances.
Sort of a randomness then that makes it more natural. And yeah.
All right.
As for like a specific piece of technology, I would say probably not. Um, Simply because unless you like go into a store or walk up to a vendor, just grabbing a piece of technology is going to be a little bit difficult.
I'll walk into a store.
Okay. What sort of store would you try to find?
Uh, Something with the electronics, or a tech store, or it's something lots of people seem to be going into.
Okay, so you basically find the equivalent of a Dragon Best Buy. And inside appears to be all manner of technological wonders. Um, Probably ones that would stick out to you are what appear to be sort of a draconic styled pad, um, which seems to be a favored sort of purchase that you're seeing. You're also picking up that there is some form of I guess you would call them batteries, but they're backpack sized. The dragons walking in kind of bring in these battery packs. They go to a segment on the wall, plug it in, wait about a minute to 2 minutes, and then there's an exchange of currency, and they walk back out with their what you're assuming are charged packs.
I'm gonna try to get a scan of them.
Okay, give me another reason, science, and difficulty 2. Very good. So it is, sure enough, it is a sort of a supplemental energy reserve that is people are carrying around, and I would say it would be Hailong's best guess is that they're not rationing power, but that these energy packs are probably what powers the vehicles, the very few vehicles that you see outside. And sure enough, if you were to watch someone with one of these packs long enough, you would see one of them go up to what would be a draconic sized sort of vehicle. It kind of looks like a manta ray, and sort of like a skimmer, or maybe even like a Dark Eldar Helion board that they ride. But you see them, put in the pack and then, more or less fly away on it.
All right. I think that's gonna be it for me. I gotta run.
Alrighty. Which between Beckett and Skull, which one of you would like to go next?
Beckett can go.
All right, Beckett, what are you focusing on?
I'm going to try to take as many sneaky scans as I can, even to the point of having the tricorder on and like in a pocket and just
Mm-hmm.
scanning all the life forms that it can.
Okay. Go ahead and roll me a. Let's just do a reason medicine. Same difficulty, difficulty 2.
Okay. Reason medicine. Would xenobiology be applicable?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, would you look at that? Is there anything in particular you want to know about this species?
Um, well, I mean, the easy cop out answer is everything, but um, like their chemical makeup, whereas we're more carbon based life forms, if that's what they are.
Mhm.
If uh, if I get any kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like protein similarities to humans, to coincide with what uh, Q had said, um, and just basically to see if there is any difference between different colors.
Okay. Um, the answer I'll give you is that the species that you're kind of in the middle of does not seem to be related to humans. However, it does appear that they share a common ancestor to the Cerrado Draco, which is Hailong's species.
Okay, so they are alpha quadrant based, sort of, maybe.
Possibly.
Um, then I'll like when I can like sneakily do it, like cross reference what I'm finding from them with Highlong species or any other reptilian species. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
even if I have access to it on my tricorder, the Voth. Um, seeing as how the Voth are descendants of like uh, Terran dinosaurs,
Mm-hmm.
and just like start going with that train of thought. I am being as stealthy as I can, but I'm also not being as perceptive as I could to the world around me.
I gotcha. And don't worry, I am rolling in person because I don't want to give it away to the viewers. I am rolling in person for your quote unquote stealth rolls. Um, so what I'll say is your hunch that there is sort of a similarity in the situation between the Voth and humans. It is very similar to whatever this species is named and the Cerrado Draco, in that basically there was sort of a divergent evolution that went two paths.
Okay. Um, After getting kind of like solving that kind of train of thought, then I'll
Mm-hmm.
put the tricorder away and I'll just walk around the city and just listen to like the social interactions, and like try to see if there's any kind of social hierarchy.
Okay. Let's do a. How about an insight plus con? Yeah, let's do an insight con. Difficulty's only a 1.
Uh, 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 uh. Um, would xenobiology be a applicable focus or no?
I would say xenoanthropology would, but xenobiology is not
Okay.
going to help you like pick up random factoids.
Okay.
All right, so you get a momentum.
Holy
You're
crap.
going to get 3 pieces of information, which are probably of interest to you. The first is that in the big tower that you're seeing, I mean, you would pretty much see it from anywhere in the city.
Mm-hmm.
There supposedly the tower is not only the space elevator, but it is also home to Chancellor Tindath, Tindath. And from what you're gathering, Chancellor Tindath is the head of the government of the planet, not just the city.
Okay.
You're also picking up that sort of in this area over here to the east is where they have all sort of hospitals, medical research facilities, science research facilities, things of that nature. And one particular name that you pick up is Dr. Eoma, Eoma. You don't really know what Eoma's focus is, whether they're a science doctor or like a medical doctor. Um, but that is the name you pick up. And then
Okay.
finally, this building over here, to the left of the big tower, is a grand library, and it doesn't take you all that much to figure out that a grand library probably is going to have a metric fuck ton of information for you to find.
As soon as I hear that part, though I'm intrigued by the other doctor, I'm definitely going to the library.
Okay.
And when I get to the library, I'm going to look up. What I want to look up is obviously history,
Mm-hmm.
but also uh, to go with my earlier thought process of major differences between the different color dragons. Because I'm guessing by the fact that all of us, the away team, was all different color and styles of dragons,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm looking at that kind of Skittles bag in front of me of different colors and styles.
I gotcha. All right. My question is, would you do this trip to the library during your 5 hours, or would you wait so that other members of the away team could come with you?
Um, I will go on my own,
Okay.
um, with the idea that if I find something, if finding the library, going through looking what I'm looking for, then once we get back together, if the captain has another idea of looking something up, this library would probably a good place that the six of us could find, one little piece of information easier than just one person.
Gotcha. All right. In that case, roll me we'll do a reason plus medicine since you're kind of looking at medical records. Difficulty here will be a 2.
Okay. And the aforementioned focus, yes or no?
Yes, I'll allow it.
Okay. Or I was gonna say, or if not, I also have computers. I don't know if I'm actually looking at books or if it's computer banks.
Oh, sorry, I completely forgot that tidbit. So, as you could probably guess, looking at the big old library, it sort of has these grand sweeping overlooks of the waterfalls in the city, and they have both physical and digital books available for perusal.
Okay.
Basically,
Uh,
imagine the archives from Star Wars, except much bigger and spacious.
okay. Well, yeah, they've got to be because they've got to have flying dragons going through them.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Hey, look at that. So I'm gonna give you a few tidbits, and remember, you can spend momentum to ask more questions. The first thing you pick up is that the dragon species name, is the Gozin, Gozin. And sure enough, you confirm the fact that the Gozin did used to be in the Alpha Quadrant. And how can I say this? Yes, I can say this. You're no like scientist. By that I mean like astrophysics is not your forte.
No.
But it is, fairly easy even for you to just sort of cross-reference where you are currently with where the Serato Draco started. If what you're finding is true, they are, or you are currently on the fringe of the Milky Way, yet still in the Alpha Quadrant. So you are way out towards open space.
Okay. we're talking hundreds and hundreds of light years, correct?
Yeah, if I did it right, it's basically about 50 years of maximum warp travel away.
Oh, right. Where's our nearest wormhole? Okay. Trying to think of what else I could ask. Because I've gotten us a couple of momentum here. I will. Okay, then I'll ask this. Looking through the books and the history logs and everything. Was
Hmm.
there any one or or any major, I should say, reason why the species has chosen to move or leave closer to the Alpha Quadrant? Because Q saying they're nomadic, and then looking at this city and seeing how much it took to build this city, probably.
Hmm.
I don't think they're as nomadic as they once were.
It's a fair assumption. Because you asked the question, I will give you a partial answer. However, if you want to go for the full answer, I'm going to say this is probably going to be a reason science.
Uh,
Difficulty 3. Or maybe
okay.
even in like a in insight science. Either would apply here in my mind.
Okay. I'll take that role. I'll do insight science.
Okay. Spending any momentum for extra die?
Um, yeah, I'll dump the last momentum for this.
Okay.
Because I know I don't have an applicable focus. Um, okay.
All right.
Eh,
So again, I'm going to give you some information, but you're not going to get the full thing.
okay.
Um, so what you are seeing is that the Gozin do seem to have explored actually most of the Milky Way. Like you're picking up grand star charts from millennia ago. However, there is one particular event, or two particular events, I should say, that stick out to you. The first is the encounter with the Dominion, and the second is the encounter with the Borg. Both of these encounters happen roughly at the same time, and after that moment in time, the Gozin seem to have retreated to this fringe of the galaxy type of situation.
Um, okay. So, and how long ago was that encounter?
If I have my dates correct, this would be approximately 5,000 years ago.
All right. So my head just snapped back. So, looking at this information, the Dominion and the Borg were in the Alpha Quadrant five 5,000 years ago.
No, they encountered them in their respective places. So the Dominion in the Gamma Quadrant, the Borg in the Delta.
Oh, got it. Okay. I wrote down when you said they've explored most of, and I think we had said Alpha Quadrant, so I wrote down Alpha Quadrant, not Milky Way.
Yeah, they did the
Um,
whole Milky Way.
okay. So and they almost encountered them at the same time. In huh? Does it say where if it was in? Well, no. I'm leading myself off on tangents. Because the Dominion's from the Gamma Quadrant. The
Correct.
Borg is technically the Delta Quadrant-ish,
Mm-hmm.
and they encountered them at the same time.
It's a bit of a mystery. Could also just be pure happenstance.
Okay. Then I have one more thing I want to look up after getting that little tidbit of information.
All right.
How big of a civilization slash empire slash whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
are the Gozin? As in, if
Um.
if by that other piece of information they were in two separate quadrants of the galaxy at the same time, how big are they? Like, did they have military missions or search missions going both directions? Are they dumb like the Federation and just spread themselves really, really thin in every direction, or what?
I would say, and I'm going to give this to you free. I would say, looking at it again, you're not the most knowledgeable when it comes to astrophysics and stellar cartography, but they seem to have quote unquote carved out, or at least laid claim to, about an area of space similar in size to the Tholians on the edge of the galaxy.
Okay. Um, and one last question, if I can find it in the this grand library.
Mm-hmm.
How xenophobic or um, bottled up on themselves are they? Do they have trade partners? Do they communicate with other species that are around? Um, type type thing.
I would say the feeling you're getting is isolationism rather than xenophobia.
That was the word I was looking for when I said xenophobia. Okay. Okay. Then that's me, and I will spend probably the 5 hours doing all that research that I just did.
All right. All right. So, Captain, what are you doing during this 5 hour time?
Well, I have implicit trust that the rest of the team is going to do the sciencey stuff. I'm going to find a museum.
Okay. There are several, in fact. It's kind of like the Smithsonian, where they're sort of segmented into various types. So, what sort of museum would you go into first?
Artistic, I believe.
Okay. So imagine their equivalent of a draconic Louvre, or however you actually say it.
Mhm.
So it's hard for me to really describe art from a different species, but if you imagine some sort of, how do I want to say this? Similar to how humans, how that we have so many different styles of famous artists, you kind of see the same things here, where the styles are varied. It's not just, say, watercolors or acrylics. You see, even in this library, or this, not this library, this museum, you're seeing hollow displays, you're seeing sculptures. Basically, it runs the full gambit of what art of a culture could be.
I do find that Silverwing the silver I do find Silverwing's artistic style changed during the second trimester of his life. Up until this point, it seemed that he had that he was a very realistic individual, but after that, he's something seemed to happen, and he took a more abstract point of view. Perhaps indication of a change of mental attitude towards life, or maybe he even had a stroke. Yeah, I'll poke around here for an hour or so,
Okay.
and after that, I will be interested in taking in draconic musical arts, if they have such a thing.
Okay.
Um, See if they have an off Broadway production of something.
So the one tidbit I'll give you before you leave the art museum is you are seeing, at least in one section of the museum, you are seeing all sorts of well, art that depicts other cultures. So
Hmm.
you see, strangely enough, you do see one that seems to represent humans. You do see one that represents the Cardassians. You see one that represents what's their species name? Uh, Not the Bolians, the other blue ones. What are they called?
Andorians?
Yes, the Andorians. Thank you. You do see the Andorians. Basically, you're seeing a good smattering of Alpha and Beta Quadrant species, but you also see the occasional Gamma and Delta as well.
And are these artworks done um, in a way that denotes those in reality, or is it more of an abstract thing? And are they sort of looked upon as one of us might look on, say, a painting of a chimpanzee and go, well, that's an animal? Or is it done like, well, there's a. Uh, basically, is it art that is trying to depict just how a thing is?
Hmm.
Or is it depicting that this is nothing, that these are. Ah,
I know what you're
that the.
asking. I
Yeah.
gotcha. I would say that a majority are as things are. They're not meant to be like symbolic of the Gozin ruling over anything.
Okay.
It almost kind of looks like these are all sort of first contact type bits of art.
Hmm.
However, there are a few that do seem to depict the Gozin as being quote unquote superior to whatever other species are contained within the bit of art.
Well, if I was 15 feet tall and had a wingspan of a school bus, then I would probably view myself as superior too. Yeah. I'll just make a little thoughtful frown with my fangs and trundle off to find a music show of some sort.
Okay. So it seems that street musicians are kind of a culture agnostic type things. You wander into, oh, I forget the name of the street, but basically the one street in Louisiana that
Oh,
I think in
yeah.
New Orleans.
Bourbon Street.
Thank you. You wandered into the equivalent of that. So there's all sorts of street performers, all sorts of music, things of that nature.
Well, this will thoroughly entertain me for at least the next 3 hours. Um, I'm taking a look at. Not only am I taking a look at the music that these or whatever street shows that they're doing, I'm also paying attention to how the crowds are reacting. Like,
Hmm.
do they throw do they throw money? Is it encouraged that they give money? Do they just stand around and applaud? And how do dragons even applaud? Maybe they just snort in appreciation. The
So
small things.
interestingly, what you find is obviously some dragon types are a bit more articulate than others, so some do clap. Others sort of slap their tails against the ground.
Hmm,
Um, but it does seem to be all in approval rather than, say, annoyance or booing.
right.
As for the performances themselves, I would say that probably the most grand one that you've seen or will see is a sort of a fluorescent green dragon. Um, is breathing what appears to be electricity. And they're doing it in such a way that the electricity forms various shapes and various bits of sound. So kind of imagine how a Tesla coil will, has a very distinct sound and it arcs
Mhm.
the electricity around. It's
Yep.
similar here, except that the dragon seems to have, or the Gozin, I should say, has greater control over the shape, frequency, size, etc.
I will nod my head and slap my tail in great appreciation for his or her for its talent over the metaphysical.
Very good. All right.
Uh,
And I believe that leaves you one more hour before everybody meets up again.
I'm going to go to I'm going to go and find a bar.
So the way I had imagined it is the bars you find are all kind of like open to the street,
Mhm.
and they more or less serve both food and beverage on these grand platters and these almost like bucket-sized containers.
Which I assume fits perfectly around a snout.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Pray to whichever god I decide that the goes and pray to that Q provided me with enough local currency. Reach into whatever I'm wearing for pockets, pull out something, and I'll just take a look at and I go, I'll have what this guy's having.
Okay. I probably should have said it sooner, but basically the way I'd imagine it is, if any of you have read Temeriere, it
I have not, actually.
is kind of like a bit of leather strapping and sort of a netting that you wear that sort of holds your stuff for you.
Okay. I'm used to leather and straps holding other things, but that's all right.
Phrasing.
Phrasing.
Not in this instance.
All right. So, yeah, we'll say you have a very excellent meal. It's, if I had to give you an equivalent, it is some form of crab and lobster hybrid. So it's a very rich taste.
All right. Is it served alive or cooked or raw or?
However you want it.
Interesting. Well, then I'll have it. I'll have it roasted, please.
All right, you get roasted crab lobster.
Crabster.
Or larab. Larab is another good one.
Crab works, yeah.
All right. So, the 5 hours pass, and you all meet back up kind of where you first entered. And yeah, you can compare notes with one another.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been immersing myself in local arts and culture. They have a very rich form of self-expression, and they're as diverse in taste as most humanoids. What have you found, Doctor?
Oh, I've found a lot. So, and I'll kind of point off to the building where the library was. I found a grand library. And as such, I decided to pour myself into it and pour through a bunch of information for the better part of 5 hours.
I very much look forward to a thorough debriefing on what you've learned.
Oh, it's quite a bit. And yeah, there's also some very confusing parts as well. As in, well, let me just put it this way: this species ran into, and the reason they are this far out. Oh, by the way, I also know where we are too.
Oh, very good.
We're actually still in the Alpha Quadrant, but we are hundreds of light years on the outside fringe of the Alpha Quadrant.
So no chance encounters with Starfleet, eh?
Well, not unless Starfleet has like 50-something years to send a ship out here.
Maybe that's where Voyager will go next.
Also, this species has pretty much explored all of the Milky Way galaxy, and has had run-ins with the Borg and the Dominion at the same time.
Well, if I were to encounter both of those species at the same time, I'd retreat to the furthest point away from them as well.
And Beckett kind of emphatically nods. Yeah, that's from what I can pick up. That is the reason that they came this far out. They live a very isolationist society. So even if Starfleet sent envoys out here this far, I don't know how they would be accepted. Also, the amount of space that they take up is, or at least how far their culture civilization is about the same size as the Tholians. So kind of on par with, major Alpha Quadrant powers. And I'll kind of nod my head to Hai Long, and looking at doing what I do best and looking at the biology of the species. Hai Long's people are actually descendants of these people.
So, Hailong does kind of give a sort of toothy smile and says, I came to the same conclusion, but if I may, I've found some very interesting things of my own.
Of course.
Well, sort of to piggyback on what the good doctor has said, I was able to steal away into the library, kind of, I guess, at a different time because we didn't run into each other. But I found out that the Gozin possess both an advanced version of multi-adaptive shielding and as well as transwarp technology on all of their starships. So they conceivably could be pretty much anywhere in the galaxy under cloak, and we wouldn't know it.
Well, at least they seem peaceful out here, anyways. But I guess the capital city is always going to be the most peaceful spot in a large empire.
Well, I don't know if this really is a testament to either their species or if it just seems to be happenstance. But this city I found was named Vodis, Vodiss. And very similar to how Earth names very many things after Zephram Cochrane, my understanding is that Vodis was a similar figure for the Gozin. But sorry, I'm getting a tangent here. And she seems to get a bit more excited, a bit more bright up. And she says, I think the most important tidbit is, and she kind of leans in, sir, they have stabilized omega particles.
I'm sorry. What?
What? Wait. Say that again?
You're not cleared to know, Commander.
They have stabilized omega particles, sir.
I do know, but go ahead.
That
I pat the captain on the shoulder. Don't worry. You can yell at me for it later, but go ahead.
Okay, we're not allowed to interfere. If something goes screwball with their omega particles, it's not going to affect the Federation. But that technology is impressive and years beyond what we can harness. We only recently began to even theorize what an omega particle can do.
Well, if it helps, from what I was able to determine, they basically have made the technology very similar to our own warp drive. They have the means to siphon energy. They have the means to contain any disasters. It honestly just seems like they have reached a level of power generation that I'm honestly surprised I didn't find anything about Dyson spheres.
I can only have one headache at a time, Senior Chief.
Oh, I can't miss this opportunity. Beckett kind of looks at the captain, goes, "Don't you mean two?" And I kind of point to his abdomen where the symbiote would be.
If
I
I
mean-
could breathe fire right now, Commander.
I mean, you normally have two headaches. You have myself and Panek. So, I mean,
I guess headaches are constant wherever I go.
that's why they pay you the big bucks.
I have 6 months back pay when I get back to Federation territory. It's going to be great. Zareed, what did you discover? Zareed. Oh, I had a wonderful conversation with a group of traders that I found at a nearby eating establishment. I established myself as a traveler from the far expanse of their empire, who has made a journey to the capital city under guise of establishing a trade negotiation for myself and a small business. And she's more than happy to discuss about that for the next 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yep. Let's see. Matic, I'm assuming, is just going to be quiet. Do I want to know what sort of trouble Lotus has got into?
Lotus seemed to focus on the starship, so she tried to get a feel for what their ships are like, and she reports Interestingly, sir, they seem to use the entire space of the interior of their ships. Very similar to Tholians in that the walls, the ceilings, all of it is used.
That's a. So can we assume then that they travel under zero gravity?
No, my understanding was that they simply had directional gravity plates installed.
That's also logical. Yeah. So, I must admit, this has been a very interesting excursion. Um, is there anything else people are interested in learning? Also, I have no idea how we're going to get Q to bring us home. So, where
So
else should
there
we
is
go?
a flash of light nearby, and Q does appear, and she says, "Oh, I've been here the whole time. You have about," and she mocks, looking at her wrist. "Oh, right. You have about 15 minutes of your time before I take you back."
Is she still wearing science and medical blue?
Oh yeah, she looks as she did in her portrait.
Okay. I after she says that, and I'll be polite and let her finish. I'll just kind of look at her, kind of rub my copper dragon chin, and go, you know, that blue just does not look good on you.
She looks down, raises an eyebrow, and says, "I personally think it matches my wings."
Yeah, but so is the other Q your boss? Cause he always showed up in red.
Let's say I'm not as conceited as certain members of the Q Continuum.
Hmm. Interesting.
Hmm. Well, very well. If we have 15 minutes, I'm going to take the holo recorder and go out and take some more pictures.
And if we have 15 minutes left, I'm gonna ask the captain what bar he went to, and I'm gonna go there to have a drink.
That sounds like a fantastic idea. I could go use another. Here to
Uh,
come.
Oh dear. All right.
Here to join us, crew.
Yeah. So, kind of to bookend your stay here on the planet within the city of Vodis, you spend the next 15 minutes in revelry. You have some drinks, some food, you take some pictures, and right as 15 minutes elapses, there is another flash of light, and all of you have returned to the Ophion.
can I ask a quick question about
Sure.
what was there any like prevalent smell or like certain types of trees that gave off a scent that we were around?
Are you familiar with the smell of cherry blossoms?
How did I know it was going to be cherry blossoms? Yes, I am.
No, that's what you're smelling.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say you reappear in Skull's ready room, and you can filter back out to your stations and wherever else as you so wish. But Q is no longer in Skull's ready room.
Any indication of how much time has passed?
No, but you could certainly ask the computer.
Computer, what is the current time?
The time is, and it gives you a time that is 2 hours after you left.
Not bad.
No,
Awfully
we got.
Sorry, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, not bad. We got 6 hours crammed into 2 hours.
Yeah. So I wonder how that's. I wonder how that's going to look on our time sheets.
Oh well, I'm like you. I have back pay, racked up. So I'll just use it as part of owed time.
Mm.
So Highline does kind of cough and says, "Sirs, if it's all right, I'd like to take everyone's tricorders and begin dumping them into our database. We have a lot of data to go through."
By all means, Chief.
All right.
I will. I'm actually gonna make a copy of what I found and give it to her
Mm-hmm.
because I'm also going to pour over the biology aspects of what I found. But all of the historical things that I found that I recorded, I will gladly give her a dump of that.
Okay. And Zareed does kind of piggyback on with Hailong, and the two of them kind of rush off to a science lab to begin chugging the data.
All right. I'm going to step back out on the bridge.
Okay. And Panek kind of looks up from the chair and says, Captain, you are back sooner than I expected. Was your trip fruitful?
It was actually, Mr. Panek. We had an interesting experience that proved, for once, no risk to life, limb, or sanity. The full data will be uploaded shortly to the court. That you are more than welcome to review at your leisure. But suffice it to say, it was a very enlightening experience.
Speaking of which, sir, I need not remind you that we do have a Tholian observer aboard. Should we perhaps secure this information and restrict access until our ambassador has left us?
Of course. Let's mark this level 7 for the time being.
So Shatsu nods and starts tapping at her console.
One thing I forgot to say before we came back,
Mm-hmm.
with the video recorder and the captain taking pictures,
Right.
we will take a picture of all of us as dragons,
Very nice.
Naturally.
and I'm going to have it framed and hung in the captain's ready room, because I would put it in the duck, but even Beckett thinks that that's a little bit too much information to just put out in the common room.
Mm-hmm.
So he will hang it. He will have it framed and then have it brought up and hung in the ready room. Before I walk into the turbolift to leave, I will tell Panek, yeah, it was a great journey, and you really should have seen how wonderful Zareed's copper dragon scales looked. And then I will shut the door.
And Panek, in typical Panek fashion, just says, I find this obsession with appearance to be highly logical.
And then also, because he's not in voice chat right now, but I'm sure he will watch the VOD, I very much am going to do the picture of the snarling copper dragon and have it play as a holographic video over the top of his bed.
Nice. Nice.
I kind of wanted it when he walked in, it would just pop out and scare him, but I think just over the top of the bed would be okay.
Okay. Noted.
And
Alright.
before anybody gives me grief on Twitter or anything else that I'm picking on Panek, this is payback for the Klingon EMH.
Oh dear. All right. Well, we have kind of reached the end of the session. So, does anyone have any last minute bits of RP they wanted to do before we call the session to a close?
Not on my front, no.
Not RP, just one real small announcement.
Sure.
I know we have some followers, some people that watch, because my Twitter has blown up a little bit. But the coming week, Memorial Day weekend, which I actually won't be available for the game, which is the first time the GM is hearing this, which is crappy on my part.
That's okay.
I will be at GameX in Los Angeles at LAX, with the Adventures League, which is Dungeons Dragons 5th edition. And if you happen to watch this and you happen to be there, come by and say hi. You can probably just yell out Beckett and I will answer to it. I've used the name way too much on different characters. So if you're there, it would be really cool to see that, see people that listen to us, have fun, and poke fun at each other, and possibly break the Prime Directive. Come by and say hi.
That was only one time, and there were extenuating circumstances.
And we still don't even talk about that one time.
All right, very good. In that case, what I'll do is I'm going to end the stream and the recording. Of course, my two players stick around for after session stuff, but those of you watching on Twitch or YouTube, of course, thank you for watching, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.